knows we're live, so I'm gonna cheer for this, even though it's our nutrition Zoom, because we're just used to cheering on all of our Zooms. So, welcome! I'm so excited. So this is gonna be an interesting Zoom for sure. So, I'm not necessarily gonna tell you exactly what to eat because everybody's a little different, but I will probably tell you a lot of what not to eat. And there is actually going to be a whole lot of education in this Zoom. So just put your school hat on because you are going to feel like you're back in school, except for I'm not going to be telling you the things they told you in school. So I'm excited. I get super excited about this stuff. I could talk about it all day and all night, but I am going to keep this to an hour, hopefully. So hopefully I make no promises. So I have a lot that I want to say, so I'm probably going to go really fast, but Scarlett is on the Zoom with me. Feel free to ask questions. I like questions. I like talking, apparently, especially on Zoom. So, we're gonna talk tonight about, there's so much I want to share, y'all, like so much. So I've realized that I need to do a whole separate Zoom on supplementing. I need to do a whole separate Zoom on just diving into keto and carnivore and the difference and how they both heal and what order you could do it in. I need to do a whole Zoom on fasting as well. I think these are all gonna have to be separate because I just have a lot to say about all of these things. But tonight we're going to start with the food guide pyramid. Everybody knows the food guide pyramid, right? The pyramid, we were all taught that your plate should have mostly grains and then a little bit of meat and a little bit of fruit and vegetables and then a teeny tiny bit of fat that is only allowed in moderation and only sometimes, right? Okay, throw that away. Throw it out of your brain. Forget it. It's stupid. It's not smart. It doesn't work. I'm going to tell you a little bit about where it came from. And one of my goals, honestly, is not to teach you everything. I don't want to teach everybody everything. I have been researching this stuff for literally over 21 years. So it's not like I can just teach everybody everything I know in one Zoom or even 5 Zooms. The idea is for you to question things enough to go look on your own, to think for yourself and not to just follow whatever you're told by whoever tells you, even me. Look up what I say. So the food guide pyramid, it wasn't created for your health. It actually was created to push cheap government subsidized grains. Surprise, that's why that huge grain thing is at the bottom. Grains are actually really bad for us. So it's huge at the bottom because what do you think? It's money. It's all money. So it was created in it's actually not as old as a lot of people think. Do you know when the food pyramid was created? It was in the 70s. It's not that old. So it was driven by something called the McGovern Report, which was backed by the grain industry. Surprise! Well, who else is going to benefit from the pyramid more than grains? Because it's literally telling you to eat mostly grains. And at the time, well, still, the USDA had deep, deep ties to agricultural lobbyists. And grains were and still are very cheap. They're shelf stable. They're very profitable for sure. And all of a sudden, they're now what's supposed to take up the most amount of room on your plate, right? Makes no sense. So what did that lead to? If you follow the science and look at the math at the same time and look at trends and just like what happened at the time, chronic diseases skyrocketed, like obesity, and honestly, people are a lot more obese now than they were before. It's not that people weren't obese before, but again, look at the science, look at the math, look at the facts and the data. It is no better. We are not healthier than we were before by any means. Heart disease, all the things that we're dealing with, diabetes, they have skyrocketed. So doesn't that make you just question. You know, we're further in society with technology and knowledge than we've ever been, but yet we are unhealthier than we have ever been. How does that make sense? Make it make sense. You cannot make it make sense at all. So this report actually was based on bad data and junk science already as it was. So this guy, Ansel Keys, he did a, well, he did some studies, more than one study, but he did studies and concluded and blamed saturated fat and cholesterol for heart disease while ignoring sugar and processed foods. I mean, like, really, humans have survived off of saturated fat and cholesterol way before we were ever around. But you know what they didn't survive off of? Processed foods and tons of sugar. So he basically did these studies and he cherry picked the data. And this happens a lot. This is why sometimes you can't even trust studies. People think, oh, it's a study or oh, it's peer reviewed. It doesn't matter. Do the research yourself. I know you might not be able to really get in a lab and do all the research yourself, but look at who's funding these things. And he basically had already made up his mind what the result was going to be. And he picked the data that went along with that, which that happens in the science and the medical community a lot. But he had access to a lot of data from a lot of different countries. And what he ended up doing was picking the ones that only the ones that went along with what he wanted the outcome to be. So he left out a whole lot of countries. Um, and he basically, like, he left out France. In France, people eat tons of saturated fat, but there was very low amounts of heart disease. Well, that doesn't go along with what he wanted to say, so he completely left that country out of his results. So basically, what it did, this report demonized fat and pushed grains. And the recommendation was to cut back on red meat, which people are still, even though it wasn't that long ago, but I mean, it was a long time ago, and people still believe this. This thought pattern is just so deeply ingrained in people that they're like, oh, red meat is bad. So cut back on red meat. Oh, eggs are bad. Dairy's bad. And you should eat more grains and fruits and vegetables. And who did this help the most? The grain industry, especially corn and wheat and soy, all of which are really bad for you, by the way. So now here these industries are, they're exploding thanks to these government subsidies and these reports and the food guide pyramid that it laid the foundation for lots of things. It wasn't just here's what you should do. It's now how kids are fed in school. I mean, schools, prisons, anywhere where they're feeding you, hospitals. This is how they're feeding people, and it's bad. So at the time, a lot of scientists and doctors warned against it. Y'all, I have to throw this in here. I'm so sorry to bring this into this conversation, but this happened with COVID too. A lot of scientists and doctors warned against what was going on, but they were called quacks and crazies. And, you know, they have the same schooling and degrees as these people that you're following. Like, they just know everything. But a lot of experts at the time said, there wasn't enough data to push this agenda, but the team pushed ahead because this is a literal exact quote from McGovern, which was a senator, and he said, senators don't have the luxury that scientists do of waiting until every last shred of evidence is in. So basically, screw the evidence. We're just going to still publish this report, and people for years, decades, are going to change the way they eat because of it. So it also kicked off the low fat craze, which I'll tell you about. I have so much to say, but I'll tell you about that later. And suddenly fat is evil, right? So all these food companies started going on like low fat, high sugar products because that's what was in demand, because that's what people thought was healthier at the time. And then again, obesity, diabetes, heart disease exploded. So this report actually shaped the food pyramid. and school lunches, and just the messages that were sent to public, like to the public, just, do they even play those "Where's the beef" commercials anymore? I don't know that they, like, what do you see now on TV? I don't really have regular TV, but you still see ads on like Hulu and Netflix and stuff. It's drugs. It's not food. Like you would have the Got Milk commercial or the Where's the Beef commercials. At least they were, some companies, some um organizations were sending some kind of good message, but now it's all drugs. Do you have these symptoms? You probably have this disease. And now all these people are freaking out because they hear these symptoms that most people have. And then they think they have this disease. And then they go get a diagnosis, which is so easy to do. And now they have a drug that's going to make them even sicker. So this, this report was definitely rooted in money. It was political, it was profit driven, and it was also influenced by powerful food lobbies. So, isn't it funny that the Food and Drug Administration is one thing? Like, why are they one thing? They should not be one thing. They should be totally separate. Food and drugs, like if you had the right food, you wouldn't need the drugs. So, but ever since the food guide pyramid or the food pyramid became a thing, we have been sicker and sicker ever since. And when it comes to like low fat, so low fat was definitely, and it's still, there's still, if you go in the grocery store, it's super easy to find things that say low fat. And people, even now, you will get told like completely avoid saturated fat, which is bad advice. Completely avoid cholesterol. Again, it's bad advice. And do you know that in the 60s, the studies that were done that blamed fat for heart disease? Okay, because a lot of people still think fat leads to heart disease, right? Or clogged arteries. Okay, so the studies that led to that conclusion were funded by the sugar industry, literally. So, who is going to benefit when they tell you fat is bad? Is the sugar industry. How else are you going to make food taste good if there's no fat in it? You can't. It's gross because fat tastes good. So, but you know what fat isn't? It's not addictive like sugar. So it's not highly profitable like sugar. Like you do not crave fat like you crave sugar until you start eating right. Once you start eating right, you actually will crave fat and you'll crave meat and your body will actually crave the things that you're supposed to have, like salt, or you'll just be craving bone broth or like weird stuff because your body actually can communicate with you properly when it's not full of sugar. So this Ansel Keys guy, he was actually a physiologist. And so not a dietitian. I mean, not a, you know, nutritionist or anything like that, but he did research, and he did a lot of research on diet and heart disease, and he created this thing called the diet heart hypothesis, which basically said saturated fat raises cholesterol, which then causes heart disease. No. So this is what really gave the low fat craze a lot more credibility. And it's still around today, which is sad. So basically, this guy, he actually had access to data from 22 countries. He used data from 7. That's clearly a flawed study. I mean, anybody that's, even if you're not a scientist or like anybody can tell you that is very, very flawed. So, um, yes, I didn't even realize there was chats. Okay, there we go. Yes, yes, picking and choosing. Absolutely. He cherry picked the data to make it say what he wanted it to say. And oh, it is so hot in here, y'all. Oh my gosh. Woo. Okay. So it is hot. My air, I don't know what the temperature is in here, but I think it's probably like 83 degrees in my room right now. So that breeze that you got out of that palm tree behind you, I'm a little jealous. The little ocean breeze you got going on. I need some of that. But anyway, so basically food companies replaced fat with sugar and processed carbs, which are a lot cheaper and a lot more profitable. And grain crops exploded, like corn, soy, and wheat. And then you know who else benefited is Big Pharma because statin drugs became a multi-billion-dollar industry. People are literally convinced that they need statins to live. And it's so sad. It's just so sad. And I do believe that some doctors, maybe a lot of doctors, they just really don't know because they only know what they were taught. I mean, they were taught out of textbooks just like we were in school, and they don't get a whole lot of training at all on nutrition and what the body actually needs to be healthy. That's not what medical school teaches them. So I don't think that all doctors are evil, but I do think that it's crazy that the ones who do see the truth and try to speak it get labeled as quacks. Even though they literally have the same, and it's not even that they have the same training, they have obviously gone above and beyond to research certain things. So it's just like any specialist, they took it upon themselves. And when you learn something because you want to learn it, you're going to learn it a lot better, a lot more. Where if you learn something because you have to learn it to finish medical school, you might not care so much about it. But when these doctors choose to do research on their own, I would trust them a lot more than, I mean, honestly, when you go to the doctor, you don't know if that doctor barely passed medical school. You have no idea. So, but red meat, butter, and eggs became bad things while disease skyrocketed. I mean, so the American Heart Association started shifting positions too, because if you do the research as to what they used to say and push and believe versus what they started around this time pushing and believing and what they say now, there's a huge difference. And it's not because there's new or better science available. It's because they took millions and millions of dollars in donations from companies like Procter and Gamble, which Procter and Gamble, I don't know if you know this, they make Crisco, which Crisco is no. It's a no. It's a big no. So when these alternative fats, like seed oils and Crisco and things like that, the companies that make them are the ones that benefit from the American Heart Association pushing certain agendas, and they are literally giving them billions of dollars. Doesn't that make you question, does the American Heart Association actually have my best interest at heart? No, they don't. No pun intended. But the thing about fat, so that's part of your schooling for today. But the thing about fat is that our hormones, because I do most of these assuming that it's women that are listening, our hormones are made from cholesterol. So if you're fat free and your hormones are crazy, we wonder why, right? Like, why would your hormones be crazy? Because your hormones are made from fat. So healing healthy fats are things like grass-fed butter, ghee, which is just clarified butter, and beef tallow, lard. And then if you're not animal-based, coconut oil and eggs and fatty fish, all the things that have really been demonized. But they're all very crucial for brain health, hormone production, your skin, your metabolism. And your brain is literally like if you weighed your brain and like portioned it out, it's 60% fat. It's a lot of fat. So when you go low fat and avoid fat, you're literally starving your brain, literally starving your brain. And the myelin sheath, which is very important. And this is a whole, like, we could we could go so far into this rabbit hole. I'm not going to, but maybe while I talk about fasting, I can talk a little bit more about how your body can regenerate itself in ways that you just don't even realize. But it is the insulation around your nerves, which we need very much. And it helps your brain send signals, and it is 70 to 80% fat. And most of the fat that surrounds it and that it's made from is saturated fat and cholesterol, the things that we're being told to avoid. So your body needs fat, especially saturated fat and especially cholesterol, to build brain cells, to support hormone production, to stabilize your mood, and to protect your nervous system. And if your nervous system, look, this can literally alter your personality. It's kind of scary. Like this stuff that the Food and Drug Administration is pushing, it's like creating these zombie people. Like it's kind of scary. So toxic fats. Um, Toxic fats, anything that's a seed oil is bad. I thought for the longest, and I haven't always known all of this. I just do so much research and I just learn so much. It's just this is the thing that I researched more than anything. But I used to think grapeseed oil was fine or like sunflower oil. All seed oils are bad. They're all highly inflammatory. They also, when you heat them, they can oxidize, and they can also create carcinogens, which is just cancer causing agents. So canola oil, bad. That's what Chick-fil-A fries their fries in. They say they use peanut oil. That's just for their chicken. That is not for their fries. They don't fry them in the same thing. So Chick-fil-A fries are fried in canola oil. It's a lot cheaper than peanut oil. Soybean oil, bad. Corn oil, really bad. Or when you go to the store and you just see vegetable oil, it's usually canola, but it's all bad. So it's inflammatory and it is literally toxic. Like it's actually toxic. It's not just, oh, like if I eat too much, it's bad for me. And this is what a lot of us grew up on, which is terrible and, sad, but now we know and we're learning and we're growing and we're going to do better. So it is linked to heart disease, insulin resistance, and autoimmune issues. And they're also just they're your body handles different things different ways. So just because something says like, okay, let's say canola oil, I don't know the actual numbers, but let's say canola oil says 1 tablespoon has, this many grams of fat, and then you look at beef tallow and it's the same. It's not the same in your body. Just because it has the same amount, like the grams of fat are the same, doesn't mean that it's actually the same because it's not. And even olive oil, people think olive oil is the healthiest. Olive oil, when heated, is not good. The only way that olive oil is really healthy is if you eat it completely like raw, just, olive oil like sprinkled on your salad or, on whatever. I don't know what else you would put olive oil on other than a salad where it's not heated, because when it's heated, it definitely oxidizes. So things that don't oxidize, so if you're cooking with high heat, which pretty much everything I cook is high heat, like if you sear a steak or you're sauteing or frying something, tallow is definitely it can handle high heats. Ghee can too. Butter can't handle very high heats, and it just like burns. So ghee is clarified butter. It doesn't burn as fast. Coconut oil can also handle really high heats. So if you're not just eating animal fats, coconut oil would be another high heat oil. And coconut oil is not all the same either. Like there's just so many things that we could dive into, because just because it's coconut oil doesn't mean it's good. Beef tallow, typically, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do other than just render beef fat to get tallow, but all beef is not the same. So there's a difference between like pastured and stuff like that. And I feel like I should be talking about that stuff too. So we might have to do a whole nother Zoom on nutrition that's more like how to pick your food versus like why you want to avoid these toxic foods. Because if I tell you, like, oh, go get some pastured meat, but then you're eating it with a side of fries, then it's just not, I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's better than eating a cheeseburger with a side of fries, but it's still like not good. So, whole grains, like whole grains are just like, I don't know if they're the craze, but I do feel like they are because you see whole grains so much in the grocery store. Whole grains, 7 whole grains, 10 whole grains. I mean, how many whole grains are there? There's so many grains. And we were told that they're heart healthy, but they literally spike your blood sugar just like a cookie. So they're bad for your gut, just like a cookie. So, especially processed carbs like bread, cereal, granola, pasta, they definitely cause an insulin overload, which leads to a crash, and then you're exhausted, and then you have cravings, and then you have inflammation, and you're in pain, and you eat more food because that's what we do when we're upset. We eat food, and it's just this cycle. But whole grains aren't the holy grail that the food industry has kind of tried to make us think that it is, or they are, that they are. um, so I was making sure nobody was in the waiting room because Melissa was asking for the link, but she's not here. Um, so whole grains contain these things called anti-nutrients like phytic acid. Have you ever heard of that? So basically, it blocks mineral production, and it's because, or mineral absorption, not production, but it's because in nature, when these plants are growing, they have to protect, they like take up minerals from the soil and they have to keep them. So the plants themselves produce these anti-nutrients to protect themselves because they're not growing to feed humans, they're growing to survive, just like every living thing. It's not like the corn is just thinking, I'm gonna have to feed a human one day. I should probably make sure I'm healthy. It's it's literally living for survival. So there's a whole list of foods that contain that acid in particular, but there's also, I'll talk about some other anti-nutrients in a minute, but um they spike your blood sugar, and the glycemic load of whole grains is similar to just eating table sugar. So how is that good when you're constantly raising your blood sugar and you have these ups and downs and ups and downs, and it leads to insulin resistance? Then you're struggling hardcore, which that can be reversed, but then, eventually you could get to a point where you have diabetes, and it's just bad. And unfortunately, most doctors don't always go, or not all doctors go to, let's fix your diet first. It's typically, well, let's medicate you so that your lifestyle can stay similar to what it is now. So, and the other thing is fiber. Fiber. You can literally live without fiber. It is not a necessary nutrient at all, period. End of story. It is actually very irritating to our gut lining, and it is optional. It's like sprinkles on ice cream. It's cute, but it's not necessary. But fiber ain't even cute because your gut does not need sweeping every day. That's rough. And that's why it's called roughage. We're not rabbits. We don't need fiber. And actually, carnivores who eat healthy are actually more regular than people who eat a standard American diet that's loaded with tons of added fiber or whole grains that have fiber. So, fiber is not a thing that you actually have to have. And then fruit, a lot of people are like, what about fruits? So, fruits, if you're not eating an animal-based diet, then fruit is okay in moderation, but there are some fruits that are worse and then better than others. But fruits are bred for sugar content. They're candy in disguise. The fruit today is not the same fruit of the Bible. It's not the same. So it's literally like they keep breeding it to make it sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. And it lacks the fiber to fruit ratio that our ancestors has. Because one thing about fiber, though, is that fiber in, like, when you look at an apple, how many carbs it has, and then how much fiber it has compared to some other fruits, there's more fiber, which fiber isn't spiking your blood sugar like just a simple carb will. It doesn't mean that you need fiber. It just means that the higher the fiber content, the less it's going to affect your blood sugar because that reduces the carb load on whatever it is. Um, so you eating chicken nuggets? So, sit up, babe. So if you're metabolically healthy, which most of us are not, most of us need to do some healing first before we can add back the fruits that. Okay, show daddy. Okay, let me finish this, okay? So some of the worst fruits for when it comes to blood sugar and inflammation are grapes, which are basically sugar bombs. Bananas, they have a very high glycemic load, especially the riper they are, the worse they are. Pineapple, no surprise because it's so tasty, but it has a very high sugar um just load. And so it spikes your insulin really fast. And then mango, and dried fruit. Never eat dried fruit. Dried fruit is so bad. It's basically concentrated sugar. And there's no water. Like when you eat the whole fruit, there's water and there's fiber. Dried fruit is got just sugar. It's just candy, really. So some of the healthiest fruits when you do eat fruits are berries. Berries are really pretty healthy. So blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, they have a lot of antioxidants in them and they're pretty low in sugar. So even on a keto diet, berries are allowed in moderation, not like a bowl of berries full of whipped cream and sugar. It's berries. um, Avocado actually is a fruit and it has healthy fats and fiber and very low carbs. And then lemons and limes, those are great for your liver and digestion. And olives are actually a fruit too. Did you know that? Olives are a fruit. Um, they're full of healthy fats. That's where they get olive oil from. So it's basically a fruit oil. But if you're going to eat fruits, you stick to fruits that don't spike your blood sugar, but offer real like benefits, like healthy fats or antioxidants or the digestive, like the citric acid that comes out of fruit, that not that comes out of a lab. um, so carbs, I know some people are like, carbs are evil. And then some people are like, carbs are evil is toxic. Um, I think with anything, if you make changes, it needs to be healthy. Like you can't just cut out bread, but now you're just eating rice all the time. You know, that's not healthy. Rice is also basically like candy in your body. It spikes your blood sugar really fast. Um, and it really has no nutrition value. And eating brown rice, actually, it's full of anti-nutrients. It's no better. It's actually worse. So it's like you can't really win with rice, unfortunately. So rice is like a cheat meal. There is a way, I'm just gonna add this in here. There is a way to very, very, very drastically lower the blood sugar spiking property, I can't think right now, of rice. You cook it with, so I cook my rice in the Instant Pot. So we put typically the same amount of rice and the same amount, and a little bit more water. So like 2 cups of rice and 2.5 cups of water or something like that. Well, you add 2 tablespoons of coconut oil per cup of rice in whatever you cook it in, whether you're boiling it on a stove or Instant Pot or whatever. Cook it with the coconut oil, and then when the rice is done, you cool it right away. And it has to be completely cooled, like refrigerated where even the middle is cold. And then you can reheat it if you want after that, but it actually turns a lot of the starch in the rice to resistant starch instead of just simple. Call it. You have to be. He's got a background on. Isn't that cool? Uh-huh. That's pretty neat, right? Oh my gosh. Look, this is how hot it is in my house. This is a Rubik's Cube. It's a trick Rubik's Cube. The only way to see the colors is to heat it up with your skin. It is so hot in here that this whole thing is like the only way you can see the colors is literally by touching it. What is this? This is it's really hot in here. This whole thing is you can see it. It's crazy. It's normally all black. Oh, okay. Anyway, back on topic. I got a lot to say. Okay, so carbs. So I'm not gonna say carbs are evil, but they do like unless you're born a diabetic, if you develop diabetes, it's the way that it's like you're overloading your body with sugar and carbs. And your body doesn't like, I know fruit and candy is not the same, but if they spike your blood sugar the same, then in this instance, in this particular conversation, they're the same. So, same thing with a piece of bread. If it's going to spike your blood sugar like a piece of candy, then I mean, it obviously everybody has different goals. Some people, their goal is not to keep their blood sugar level. Some people, their goal is to, I don't know what your goal would be actually. If your goal is to be healthy, then carbs should be like cheat meals, very, very limited. I'm not saying like keto level, but we'll talk about that on another Zoom. We'll talk a lot more about carbs on that Zoom. Okay, so we're gonna talk about protein. Protein is very, very important. And I think it is good for you. And I think people don't realize how little protein they're eating. Like you think you're eating a lot of protein, but if you actually tracked it. So I like my Fitness Pal. It's a free app and you can put your food in there and calculate. And there's already, because so many people use it, chances are whatever you're eating is probably in there already, even down to the brand. And you can just log your food for a while and really see how much protein you're eating, carbs. So really, if you're carnivore, your carbs are going to be basically zero. I mean, dairy does have carbs. Like if you're drinking milk, that's different because milk, again, drinking milk is like drinking sugar. There's a lot of milk sugar in milk, but the fattier it gets, the less sugar there is in it. So like half and half has a lot less sugar than milk. Heavy cream has almost no carbs in it. And then there's butter, which is zero carb, and then there's ghee. So like the fattier it gets, the more sugar you're removing and the more water you're removing. That's why it gets thicker. Um, so protein is not just for bodybuilders. I think that protein has kind of been not demonized, but like there's like a weird stigma on it, like oh, I'm not a bodybuilder. I don't need all that protein. Because people think like protein powder, which that's a whole nother subject. Protein powder, there is very, 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 very little protein powder on the market that's actually good for you. There are some, but they probably don't taste good. And yes, they're on the shopping list. Okay, so animal protein is far, far superior to plant protein. And I know some people don't want to hear that. This is not a political discussion. This is not I mean, I do have a bias because I really like eating meat, but it's not, it's science. It is much better for you. So it is a lot more bioavailable to your body than plant protein, which basically just means your body actually absorbs it and uses it like it's supposed to. And the other thing is animal protein is a complete protein that has all 9 essential amino acids. So a lot of plant proteins, they have to add stuff to it and try to like formulate this like amino acid profile that doesn't really exist in plants like that. Um, and plant or animal protein definitely helps you maintain your muscle mass. It also stabilizes blood sugar and satisfies hunger. Actually satisfies hunger. I always feel like when okay, we'll plug it in. I always feel like when I eat pizza, which I love pizza, and there's ways to make carnivore pizza, but I love pizza. I'm not saying I eat healthy 110% of the time, but probably 95% of the time I do. But when I eat pizza, the more I eat, the hungrier I am. I like never get full when I'm eating pizza. It's crazy. But whenever I eat meat or cheese or fat, like fatty or protein heavy stuff, you get to a point where you literally can't eat anymore, no matter how tasty it is, you know? So, um, but it's so hot. Oh my goodness. Um, Plant protein is incomplete. It's not a complete protein. I mean, obviously, we talked about animals being complete. They're a lot harder to digest, and your body just can't absorb them the same. And then most plant proteins also come with anti-nutrients and inflammatory things in them. Girl, you gotta let me do this. This is real life for real. So most women are drastically under eating protein. Like you probably are not even eating half of what you should be. So you need aim for at least 100 grams of protein a day. So I'm going to tell you what that looks like because you might think, oh, I eat a lot of chicken, I eat a lot of steak. Um, so a 6 ounce steak is about 45 grams. So if you were actually eating 2.5 steaks in a day, which most of us are not, you would be good. So a chicken breast, like a whole breast, not the tenders, but like a whole 5 ounce chicken breast is also, it's about 40 grams of protein. 3 eggs, which 3 eggs is a lot to eat, is 18 grams of protein. I want 3 eggs. Because each egg has like 5 or 6 grams of protein. So if you were to eat enough eggs in a day, you would have to eat 20 eggs to get the protein that you need in a day. And in reality, okay, so if I was eating a steak, a whole chicken breast, and 3 eggs, that's 100 grams of protein. But are we eating that much in a day? No, we're eating like little tidbits of chicken and like maybe a steak, but we're not eating a steak every day or like small pieces of meat here and there. Our meals are not typically meat heavy. Now, I'm not talking to you in particular because obviously we're definitely eating a lot of meat right now, but even if you're carnivore, you can still not be eating 100 grams of protein. You still have to like really track it and see if you're actually eating that much protein. So, really you're looking at two like solid meals with a lot of meat plus a snack that's heavy on the protein. To a baby shark bed. So most women don't even eat half of because there's so many carbs and other things throughout the day that fill us up. Empty calories from like sodas and just stuff that you know stops you from eating the amount of protein that you should. And we wonder why we're tired, hungry, and losing muscle. I mean, yeah. So, um, and then when it comes to plants, a lot of plants are like little gut-wrecking ninjas. Ninjas. They're like little undercover little karate chop thing. I don't know how to explain what a ninja is, but they like hop in with swords and chop things up like your gut. The little gut-wrecking ninjas. So, okay, so some anti-nutrients. I already talked about phytic acid, which is in grains and seeds, and it basically blocks iron and zinc and magnesium, which are all things that we need to stay healthy and also awake and alive, like full of energy. So why, when we eat grains, do we feel like, oh, yeah, and the more you do it, the worse it's going to be. So there's also lecithins. Lecithins, there's not an I in there, it's lecithins. Those are in beans and legumes like peanuts, beans. They're gut irritating proteins. And then there's also oxalates, which oxalates are probably when people end up going carnivore, I think a lot of people end up going in that direction because they learn about the oxalates, and those are found in a lot of things, but spinach, almonds, kale, like I think most leafy greens probably have it. Shh. but they bind to calcium, which obviously is going to affect your bones and can literally cause kidney stones. And so it's funny, right? The more leafy greens we eat, the worse our kidneys are. I mean, does that not feel so backwards? It's like everything we've been told is just a lie. But it's also, I think, because when you look at the nutrition profile of spinach, for example, does it have good stuff in it? Yeah, but we can't ignore the bad stuff. That's like saying, well, if I bake a cake and I put a little like cocaine in it, it's okay because it's in there, like there's healthy stuff in there too. The cake has some fiber. I mean, the cake has some vitamin C I added to it. No, it doesn't make it good. So just because there are good things in like spinach, um, you can actually get all that stuff from meat and eggs, and really meat and eggs. People don't realize that meat and eggs is actually complete. What's it lacking? It's lacking fiber. Fiber is not necessary. It's lacking carbs. Carbs are absolutely not a necessary nutrient. They're just not. People think we need carbs for energy, but we don't. They give us quick energy, like it's not sustained, it's not long lasting. And then inflammatory foods. So I think, don't quote me on this, but I think I would I would be willing to bet most disease can be traced back to inflammation. And one of the most inflammatory foods you can eat is gluten. It doesn't matter if you're celiac or not. Gluten is inflammatory. And so is soy. And I feel like there was a huge push for soy at one point. I was an adult. I think I was a young adult, but like, oh, soy milk is healthier. Soy is a hormone wrecker for women. It is so bad. And for a long time, I bought soy milk because I thought it was healthier. I had no idea. It's definitely not. Plant milks aren't healthy at all. No plant milk, oat milk. Well, what all do they milk? They milk all kinds of nuts, almonds and like cashews, and none of that's healthy. So, um, and a lot of them are inflammatory, and a lot of them are full of carbs too. So they're spiking your blood sugar. They're not actually, they're just a replacement for something that's actually healthy, like whole milk or, and if you can't have milk, then you don't replace it with um non-milk, milk substitutes because they're just not healthy. So, um whew, another thing that's inflammatory, artificial dyes, preservatives, and natural flavors. We talked about that 2 weeks ago. Reading food labels. So if you didn't see that one, definitely go watch that video. We talked a lot about natural flavors and food coloring and just different things. But let's talk about what to eat because I thought a lot about what not to eat. So healing happens when you allow your body to rest. Because if your body is constantly fighting or constantly struggling to digest something or having to work so hard to move things through your system like fiber that are just really rough, then it's resources. Like, how if you ever grow a garden, if there's like a branch that's just struggling, they tell you to cut it off at the base because the plant is going to keep giving energy to that fruit or those leaves, even though they're not going to make it. So if your body is constantly giving its energy to digesting the food and handling the food, then it can't give as much energy to other things that need to happen in our body. So we need our body to rest, which in order for your body to rest, it needs real food that it can actually easily digest and process. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about carnivore. This is not a carnivore training, but meat-based or animal-based and carnivore diets do eliminate anti-nutrients, just period. They eliminate them altogether. And they also reduce inflammation and reset your gut. They're very nutrient dense and they fill you up and they're simple. And I just have to add a disclaimer here. You can be carnivore and you can be keto and be very unhealthy. So I think a lot of people that are anti these diets are thinking like people are just sitting around eating packs of bacon and hot dogs all day. Well, you can technically be carnivore eating packs of bacon and hot dog and spam and Vienna wieners and like all that stuff. That is not healthy. I'm talking about real food. Like off the animal into the grocery store, like real food, not squeezed through a tube so that it resembles something that came off of an animal. So now, are there hot dogs out there that you can eat? Yes. Is there bacon? Definitely. I eat bacon all the time. I love bacon. But I'm only talking about real food, like without the additives, without the nitrates, and without all the bad stuff. Okay. So the quality of your food matters. You can be animal based and you can be keto and be completely unhealthy. The quality still matters. And I know it's like 7:58, but we started like 8 minutes late. So I'm taking 10 more minutes. Okay. So, so, plus it's just hot in here. So anyway, some good things that really nourish, like actually nourish your body. Bone broth is probably, I mean, one of the healthiest things you can put in your body. It has, so we should have a whole Zoom on leaky gut. I could do a whole hour on that alone. So, I'm not going to go into it too much, but it does heal your gut. It has gelatin, it has collagen. Those are both really good for your gut. If you're ever sick, this is why chicken noodle soup helps you when you're sick. But the problem is now, grandma's chicken noodle soup is not what people are eating now. People are running and getting Campbell's and what is the other one? Progressive? No, that's insurance.
Espresso.
Yes, so that is not real soup, okay? That is not broth. That is salt water with a whole bunch of crap in it. So, yeah, the commentary is so fun. So, real bone broth, like legit boiled bones. And I was talking to Scarlett about this earlier. I know she doesn't like to hear it, but with other things like skin and feet, things that are cartilage heavy, and then you turn them into broth. They are very good for you. And if you're not going to sit around gnawing on chicken feet, then you should have bone broth. That's the solution. Bone broth is so good for you. There's so many minerals. There's actually protein in bone broth. If you look at the difference between broth and bone broth, there's protein in bone broth. There's no protein in broth, like regular just chicken broth or whatever. Um, I know like there's these bouillon cubes. Oh my gosh, just throw those away. Just get rid of those. That's like MSG in a square. It's not broth. Get actual broth or make your own. I made my own and it's actually pretty good. I made my own a long time ago and it was disgusting. So I was scared to drink it this time. It's delicious though. It kind of tastes like carrots. I think I used a lot of carrots in it. But it's really good and it's really good for you. So another thing that is really like nourishing is steak. Yeah, red meat is nourishing. She loves steak. Eggs and then real salt. Table salt, throw it away. Iodized salt, throw it away. And this is why part of why I want to do a whole Zoom on supplementing because I would love to talk about iodine, but just go eat some shrimp for now and we'll talk about it later. Shrimp are good. I don't like shrimp. I don't like shrimp. So, but if you're eating shrimp, you're getting some iodine. Um, but I take iodine. We'll talk about that in another Zoom. So, okay, so I want to talk about really quickly red flags on labels. First of all, if you're buying something that has a label, it's probably already a red flag. Unless it's a clear saran wrap with a little label that says ground beef, that's okay. But if there's like actually things that you have to turn over and read, it's probably not great. So we talked about that in the last Zoom, just buying real food, either produce or meat and eggs and butter. Like if you stick to the outside of the grocery store, typically that's where you find the healthiest stuff. You're going to find meat, seafood, produce, typically dairy, and eggs are all on that out typically. Not every grocery store is the same, but um, if the label screams healthy, it's not healthy. You don't see the word healthy on a steak or on eggs. Like they're not claiming healthy because it's just real food. So if the label says healthy, it's probably lying. So heart healthy, like the literal words heart healthy. Okay, they're on Cheerios. That's the first thing I think of when I think heart healthy. It's BS. It's industry labeled. It's not a bad word. It's baloney. So So cereal with 12 grams of sugar gets a heart healthy stamp. Tell me that's not BS. Did you know the FDA labeling can be bought by companies? Did you know that? They can literally buy the labeling from the FDA. How is that okay? Well, people need to be thinking for themselves. So, words to watch for, all natural. Definitely. I don't believe all natural. What does all natural even mean? Does that mean you plucked it out of a field or like, I mean, what does that mean? Whole grain, plant-based is a huge red flag. We don't need plant-based anything. Low fat, definitely throw it out the window. Keto friendly? Nope. You know what's keto friendly? Meat, eggs. So read ingredients, and we talked about this too. Read the back, not the front. But if the front screams at you, it's probably not good. So one of the easiest ways to determine if you should eat a food or not is, did it exist 100 years ago? If it didn't exist 100 years ago, you should probably throw it out. And honestly, most of our kitchens are probably full of things that didn't exist 100 years ago. Your body doesn't know what to do with it. Your body has no idea what to do with it. So we're throwing out, I mean, there are some like, I know I talked about this on the last one too, hard nose, vegetable oils, seed oils, dressings. You can make your own dressing. If you have to have salad dressing, Olivia and I make this Greek dressing. It is so good. Right, Olivia? That salad sauce, she calls it salad sauce, is so good, right? Yes. I mean, you got to pick your greens that you put it on wisely, but throw them away. Diet foods, throw them away. Please do not ever drink Slim Fast or anything like that. Margarine in the trash. Margarine is a huge no. Anything with soy, throw it away. So we're going to stock up instead on grass-fed butter, pastured eggs, beef, preferably pastured beef. Pastured means it was raised in a pasture, not a feedlot. You eat your animal's emotions. And that definitely sticks with me. So if it is mass produced, even cage free isn't much better. Like, okay, beef would not be cage free, chickens would be cage free. That's not really much better than, so cage free means they can roam in barns. It means that they're not given access to the outside. And there's so many in that one barn that they might as well be in those little cages. So, there's like sick ones in there. They're stepping on each other. They're hurting each other. They're pooping on each other. So honestly, pastured anything is going to be better. If you can buy from a farm where you know where your food is coming from, that's the best. And there are, like, all over the US, there are ways to purchase pastured food. And they do have companies like Wild Pastures and Butcher Box. I don't know if Butcher Box is pastured, but there are companies that will deliver you pasture raised meat if you have a hard time finding it. But it's easy to find at places like even Costco and Aldi. You can find, so grass fed and pastured are not the same, just FYI. So raised on a pasture, happy animals produce better meat. Stressed animals produce less quality. And that's why when you crack open an egg that is actually pastured, it is a lot yellower than a normal egg is always pretty white. That means it has a lot less vitamin A in it, and we need vitamin A. We ain't even going to talk about measles and that whole thing. We'll talk about that later. So, butter should be pretty yellow too, just like your eggs should be pretty orange. Now, this is where they can take cage-free eggs and supplement them with certain things and make the yolks orange. That's deceiving. It's just because the yolk is orange doesn't mean it's healthy. You still need pastured. So some people can't afford to buy all pastured food. This is why I think I'm broke 90% of the time, because all of my meat is pastured, all of my eggs are pastured, and they're not cheap. And the dairy that I do buy is organic at the very least, because it's not always easy to find raw pastured cream. I know where to get it from, but I don't go enough to use it every day. So if you can't, eating real meat and eggs is still better, like regular white, like the cheapest eggs, which the price of eggs is about the same as pastured eggs at this point, so you might as well buy the pastured one. But it's still better than eating the standard American diet. So, um, okay, I think I'm at exactly an hour now, but do you have any questions? She's just over here talking to herself.
I don't think so. I put in the chat though. I do have a MyFitnessPal account,
Oh, okay.
so I'm gonna go ahead and do that and start inputting my
Yes.
stuff. But I think, and we had talked about this earlier, about the fat. I don't think I'm getting enough fat, I
It
guess.
does track fat too, but you want to, in MyFitnessPal,
Mm-hmm.
you will want to create your own macros.
Okay.
So you got to figure out, and I can help you figure this out. How many
Okay.
grams of protein and fat do you need each day? Because those are the main things. We're not necessarily looking at calories.
Right.
I mean, it'll track it. You'll see it. You want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
you're getting enough calories. Like, you don't want 1,500 calories a day because if your body thinks it's starving, it's going to hold on to everything you
Everything.
eat.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to eat enough calories. So we're not tracking calories to make sure we're under a certain amount, more like we hit
Right.
at least a certain amount. But
Okay.
the ratio of fat to protein should be, and for some people, it's just like half the same amount. Like if you're eating 100 grams of protein, you're eating 100 grams of fat. That's not everyone. So we can figure
Okay.
out what it is for you. And as you lose weight, like every 5 or 10 pounds, you got to recalculate it
Oh,
because it changes.
right. Right.
And then if you reach your goal weight, then it changes again. And you want to keep eating the same foods. You still have to adjust like to maintain instead of losing.
Yeah.
You have to adjust your macros. So macros are like calories, fat, carbs. Um, but you don't really have to look at your carbs if you're just eating meat and eggs because there's no carbs. So, um, but your fat, yeah, you can put that in there. So mine is custom. It tells like I have my goals set in there. And when I log food, I can see like, oh, I'm like way over my fat and I don't have enough protein, or I'm way over my protein and nowhere near enough fat. So how do I just eat fat, you know? And
Right.
there's ways to, but it's easier to incorporate it in your day than to try to eat fat at the end of the day.
Exactly. And I think that that's what where I need to focus on because I think I'm doing more of one than the other,
Yeah.
you know, or like,
Tracking it for a while will help a lot. And then after a while, you won't have to track anymore because
right.
you'll just kind of know, like, and
Mhm.
typically on a diet like carnivore, which I don't like the word diet, but you end up eating a lot of the same things.
Right.
But simple is good. Simple is good for your body. Your body knows exactly what to do with what you ate 2 days ago, when it's real food.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean eat M&Ms every other day. Um, okay, so I'm going to share one more thing. This is going to take like a minute, but um, obviously I'm past my hour. So, I mean, Scarlett's the only one on the Zoom. So, I want to talk really quick about the gut, brain, skin connection. So your gut health affects everything. I think the first thing we should be looking at, no matter what, whether it's anxiety, whether it's diabetes, whether it's brain fog, whether it's pain like fibromyalgia, nerve pain, we should be looking at the gut, as in How is it doing and what are we putting in it? So when it comes to your gut and brain, your gut makes about 90% of your serotonin. Your gut, not your brain. It's your gut that's making your serotonin. And your serotonin, do you know what that is? It's your feel good, happy, it's your happy drug. It's a mood balancing neurotransmitter, which means that an inflamed gut equals brain fog, anxiety, and even depression. Y'all, like, I can't go down that trail right now. I will offend too many people, but we need to be looking at the gut first. It's not what we're looking at first. People think they have a chemical imbalance. Yeah, because your gut is literally producing the chemicals that you need and you're not taking care of it. And then the gut and the skin. So when it comes to your skin, so leaky gut, which is just literally exactly what it sounds like. Your gut is allowing things into the rest of your body that aren't supposed to be there. It is actually pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Or dysbiosis, which is it just means that the bad bacteria is more than the good bacteria in your gut. We need lots of good bacteria and we need it. We have to have it. But when the bad is more than the good, those things can lead, or candida, which is literally like a yeast infection in your stomach. It's fed by sugar. It's like a sugar monster. And you can actually have it anywhere. You can have it in your gut, you can have it on your tongue, you can have it in other places, but it feeds off of sugar. And so that's why when you take antibiotics, you end up with all these issues because it kills all the bacteria, not just the bad bacteria. It's not targeting bad bacteria, it's targeting all the bacteria. And you can't repopulate your gut as easy as you think. It's not just about popping a couple of probiotics. It's not as easy as that. But those things can lead to acne, rosacea, eczema, psoriasis, and inflammation. When people have skin issues, I would think 90% of the time it's their gut. And we're in Mary Kay. We are all about some good skincare. I do believe in good skincare. You need good skincare, but good skincare is not a band-aid for issues that are starting in your gut. So inflammation starts in the gut. And your skin is actually one of the first places that you will see your body screaming for help because your body is trying to get things out through your skin. So when we have things like eczema and psoriasis and acne, your body is trying to get rid of stuff. So I just wanted to share that because I think that we're just not looking in the right place most of the time when we have issues. Because we have a headache. We're not looking at our gut. We have nerve pain. We're not looking at our gut. Or we have joint pain. We're not looking at our gut, but we should be. That should be the very first place that we look. We'll talk a lot more about that when we talk about fasting. And maybe I should do a parasite Zoom too. Do you know? Okay, Scarlett, you don't have to be on it, but people are crazier when there's a full moon because parasites are more active at that time. That's why people act different. So if there's somebody in your life that has a very distinct personality change when there's a full moon, they need a detox. And detoxes are easy. There's some really easy detoxes. This doesn't mean pulling huge worms out of your butt, okay? Because I know that's what you're thinking. It's not about that. There's much easier ways to detox yourself. Scarlet can't. How are you even a nurse? I don't understand. But maybe we'll do a whole Zoom on that. So anyway, I am going to cut off the YouTube stream, but thank you guys for joining. I would love to see comments, questions, or I don't want your snide remarks though, because I don't got time for all that. But comments, anything that was helpful, questions, I will try to answer them. I don't know everything. I'm not a doctor, but I have done a lot of research and I do know a lot of things about a lot of things, and this is my passion. So